Faith is made stronger by facing doubt. Untested, it is nothing. Therefore, you believe what you want to believe, and nothing can change your mind. After all, what kind of a poor believer would you be if such a simple thing as logic could shake your faith? The way the Inquisitor becomes a symbol created by folk who witnessed unbelievable miracles and then trusted the PR campaign created by Josephine is the very same way we should treat all information about Andraste. How authentic leaders might be if others tell their stories. To avoid excessive speculation, I'll use history that looks simple and mysterious without the codex entries that scream hearsay. Today, we are not merely talking about Andraste, but recontextualizing her figure in the light of Dragon Age the Veilguard and an insane amount of hints pointing at one bold, rebellious elf. Let's start talking. Andraste was born the year when the First Blight ended. I found no proof that it was before or after the final battle against Dumat Archdemon. Therefore, I will not support the theory that Andraste was a child with the soul of an old god like Kieran.
Because people fear the next stage if it comes too soon.
To be that, her pregnant mother should have been among the people who slaughtered the Archdemon, or she should have been really close to them. And let's not forget about the unique ritual that involves sleeping with a Grey Warden or someone who possessed the Taint, also known as the Blight. Andraste was a daughter of an Alamarri chieftain. The Alamarri people are a coalition of human tribes. It is important to note that Avars from the Jaws of Hakon DLC are a part of it. Avars' traditions and rituals will significantly influence my theory regarding Andraste's nature. Imagine nearly 2,000 years before Andraste died, and more than 3,000 years after Solas created the Veil, in minus 1815 Ancient, some of the Alamarri tribes living near Lake Callanhad split from the rest, becoming the Avar. Andraste grew up in a tribe during the rise of Tevinter Imperium. Considering that most of the magic we have seen so far was born and bred under the circle of magi managed and controlled by the Orlaisian Chantry, we must accept that the magic of the ancient ways in tribes and Tevinter was different. In Jaws of Hakon DLC, we learned that Avars have a complex pantheon that includes spirits and legendary mortals all together. This is further complicated by the fact that the pantheon varies depending on the clan. However, all Avars believe in the three greatest gods: Korth, the Mountain Father, the Lady of the Skies, and Hakon, Winter's Breath. We have all the reasons to think that they are real, especially the last one. We also learned that Avar mages, or shamans, let themselves become possessed if it serves the goal. Even mild rituals invite spirits to speak through the casters for a time. Imagine what happens at more powerful ceremonies. Knowing this about tribal magic, we can finally step into the mysterious past of Andraste's life. Andraste had a half-sister, Halisir. She died at night under mysterious circumstances in the forest, and Andraste was there when it happened. After that, she started to act differently, had troubled dreams, and heard voices. It is pretty typical for Dragon Age universe. A child discovers magic after experiencing strong emotions or stress. It's logical to presume that she accidentally killed her half-sister when they were teenagers. There is a high possibility that during whatever happened between the sisters, Andraste became possessed by a spirit, and that helped her survive and recover from the incident. Allegedly, because of this, she couldn't have children for a long time, so her husband had 3 sons without her participation. And then, eventually, Andraste gave birth to 2 daughters. Maferath, an Avar leader who controlled much of what would become Eastern Ferelden, married Andraste in -187. Simple math helps us confirm that she was 16 when she married Maferath. Her father, an Alamarri chieftain, was soon killed in a Tevinter raid while Andraste was kidnapped and enslaved. Maferath began to control all northern Alamarri territory, the largest potential force outside of the Imperium. Because the Alamarri tribes were still loyal to Andraste's father, they would only follow Maferath after he successfully negotiated Andraste's release. Once it happened, a new battle took place. Shartan is a slave elf who raised a rebellion against Tevinter. He is a questionable figure, but 100% real because of 3 things. The first Chant of Light described him fighting alongside Andraste before the Chantry or the deluge occurred in Thedas. Shartan wrote a book. You can present it to Fenris in Dragon Age 2. Shartan had a sword given to him by Andraste. You can also get it in Dragon Age 2. The sword belonged to Andraste's mother, and Shartan renamed it Glendivalis. Unfortunately, most facts point that Shartan has some parallels with Solas. I think that BioWare writers did it intentionally to either have extra plot holes to help themselves create more lore, or they just want to confuse us. Anyway, regarding Shartan's book, accepting the gift, Fenris will say that he doesn't know how to read.
It's a book. It's just... slaves are not permitted to read. I've never learned. I've always wanted to learn more of Shartan. Perhaps this is my chance.
Following this fact, it's only logical to question why Shartan could write at the level where he managed to finish a book. He was an educated elf. Weird. Regarding Andraste's sword, Solas says a similar word, Glandival, in Dragon Age Inquisition.
Mahalani, Maglandeval, vi Anasalin.
If we take this lullaby as a linguistic reference, there is a high possibility that Glandival means believe, and if we add is, probably making a noun out of this verb, the name would be believer. It fits Andraste's legacy pretty well, if you ask me. Another fact that makes me facepalm is that Hawk gets Glendivalis from a pride demon called Hybris. Solas means pride in Elvish. Also, Hybris says that he has fragments of every fool who held a throne, here or in the Black. It's hilarious that Shartan and Solas are the only bold elves in Dragon Age. Both of them raised the rebellion, both of them wanted their people to have a home.
It was my dream for the people to have a home of their own, where we would have no masters but ourselves. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and thus we followed Andraste against the Imperium. But she was betrayed, and so were we.
Shartan rhymes with Shaitan, an evil jinn or spirit. Sometimes you can call that a particularly cunning person or an animal. Oh my god, who could that be? A person and an animal with a cunning mind, and all of this together? Can't figure it out. No, it's just too puzzling. It's a well-known story that Andraste was betrayed by her husband Maferath. Because of this and her Alamarri origin, many fans believe that she and Flemeth with Mythal were the same thing. If that's true and Solas is indeed Shartan, then their character arcs are just a joke. These elves just can't meet without Mythal ending up dead. Anyway, I don't believe that Flemeth and Andraste are connected, so I have my theory. Maferath sold Andraste to Archon Hessarian. Why? Well, there are too many theories. For example, jealousy.
Drove me to betrayal. I was the greatest general of the Alamarri, but beside her I was nothing. Hundreds fell before her on bended knee. They loved her, as did the Maker. I loved her too. But what man can compare with a god?
Which I don't believe. The Gauntlet Trial and all those ghosts are spirits from the Fade that hold memories of many dreamers. And we know that the Fade doesn't show the truth, only echoes and interpretations of it.
Echoes of what happened here. The Fade bleeds into this place.
I find it more reliable that Maferath wanted to give his sons more chances for survival than to his daughters, and he wanted to get rid of Andraste because her connection to the Maker got out of control. But to understand what I mean, we need to follow the timeline, so keep watching. I can't believe more detailed lore because Andraste's story about her sister's death was written by a man who lived 150 years after Andraste, and she appeared to him in dreams. Moreover, his ancestors had little connection to her clan. He couldn't know the details of her childhood and definitely used her figure to gain trust and political power. His name was Cordelius Draken I, the founder and first emperor of the Orlesian Empire and the Orlesian Chantry. Draken began unifying all Andrastian cults and beliefs in the Maker at 16 by entering the battlefield. Holy War after 200 years. Yeah, why not? So, if you paid little attention to the timeline in Dragon Age lore, you will be surprised to learn that the most known organization in Thedas that sings Andraste's name and her teachings was formed almost 2 centuries after her death, while the very first Chantry was founded in Tevinter only 10 years after she burned at stake by order of Archon Hessarian. So, the ruler of Tevinter converted to the original Chant of Light that was first formed more than 1 century before the Orlesian Chantry appeared in 1065 of Tevinter calendar and minus 130 in Orlesian calendar. They have 3 calendars, I mean, guys, seriously? So, the original chant was made by Andraste's disciples who collected tales and teachings into hymns after her death. There were many cults that rarely practiced their beliefs in a similar way. The cult of the Maker, that's the cult that Tevinter Archon Hessarian converted into and then formed the Imperial Chantry. The cult of Andraste, the disciples of Andraste, the Daughters of Song, a peaceful cult, and it was wiped out by Draken I when they refused to arm themselves and unite under the future banner of United Orlais or whatever. The cult of the Masked Andraste, in which she appears as a huntress, and the worshipping rituals involve animal sacrifice. Oh my god, the huntress and the sacrifice. Another plot hole. I mean, Andraste, Andruil, almost the same, right? So, guys, I really think that we shouldn't take it too serious, all this lore about Andraste, because it has so many plot holes that were left there intentionally. The Imperial Chant of Light confirms that Andraste was a powerful mage who became a war leader and died on a pyre. Again, a war leader and then a god. I think I heard it somewhere, maybe in my previous videos. So, the Imperial Chantry treats her like a prophet but worships the Maker. Meanwhile, the Orlaisian Chantry glorifies Andraste and sees her as the bride of the Maker, practically giving her the role of Jesus in Christianity. Just think about it. Draken I was so shameless that he created a new Andrastian Chantry and let its divine write the Orlaisian Chant of Light using Tevinter's Chant of Light. So they just reimagined the whole concept, right? And created a new calendar. Because why not? I'd like to remind you that Andraste was an Alamarri woman. Her culture dictated a constant connection with a huge pantheon of gods, spirits, and the fate. Even a short-term possession was fine. We have several reasonable plot holes, and you remember that I don't trust the Orlaisian Chantry, so the facts are: Andraste became weird after her sister's death. Then she developed magical abilities and became a mage warrior. She decided the voice she heard belonged to someone who called himself the Maker. The lucky coincidences and war victories gave her confidence to believe that she was a conduit to the truth of the Maker. Thus, she had the right to dictate what people must do for their salvation. The salvation that had never been an issue in any religion before she heard the Maker in her head. Apparently, she was so charismatic that not only Alamarri tribes believed her, but also Shartan and other elves. I might be the only one who sees a demonic possession, but some variations of a pride demon fits the narrative really well, considering how exceptional she is in her eyes and how much glory Andraste gets out of her every word and deed. What if Maferath played along as long as he could, while Andraste became more extreme and vicious in her plans? We know that every Avar clan had an ogre, a wise and experienced mage who helped clans survive and connect with the gods and spirits. What happened to them? Why didn't they oppose Andraste's words or examine her condition? Maybe they also died under mysterious circumstances like her half-sister. What if the only way to stop Andraste was to trick her? She was so absorbed by her power that she didn't expect someone would dare to challenge her. What if they had to burn her, finishing the execution with a sword into her heart? Even though this theory is cute, I have another one. In every game, we encounter demons who belong to the Forbidden Ones. For each game, there was a demon with unique lore and abilities. They are real, as we can see the proof from the Shattered Library. And we met them. I mean, come on. The Evanuris exiled them, saying that their familiarity with shape allows them to travel paths unaided. Also, some Tevinter scholars believe they taught the magisters of old how to use blood magic. I'm not saying that Andraste was a blood mage. It wouldn't really fit into her character arc of Betrayal. But a demon that can shapeshift is a tempting twist in the story. If we assume that the betrayal started with her own body and eyes and judgment, and not with her husband, the demon who has no form can easily trick a young girl. You can take the form of a vision and call yourself the Maker, because if you are the Formless One, you are technically making yourself appear whatever you want to be. I believe that the next Dragon Age game will give us more information about the Blight, the Evanuris, and Andraste, somehow connecting all the lore threads and timelines. The Formless One is a great option to bind the Evanuris world and Andrastian religion together. It would explain voices and visions, along with unusual magical powers. Alright guys, let's start a discussion. Could Shartan be Solas? After all, The Veil was created in -1905, and Solas said that he slept for 1000 years, which puts the timeline of his awakening even before the Tevinter Imperium was founded. Do you believe Orlaisian Chantry or Andraste was nothing but a mage as the Imperial Chantry first wrote it? Or maybe you agree with me? Because I believe that Andraste was a charismatic teenager who became possessed by a demon. Eventually, the cult of her personality became dangerous and Maferath had to stop her to save his people and children from the promised salvation. Have fun, play video games, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!